Was Latinus a good ruler? Papers, and you really made some good points. Oh, yes, I will come on. Okay, while I talk, I'm going to roam and collect. There were definite sides taken to this issue. Some people found Latinus struggling but well-meaning, and some people just were disgusted with him for letting things happen. But anyway, it was food for thought for me because you guys always bring up stuff that hadn't really occurred to me. You look at it in another way, and I love that. So if I changed something on your paper and you don't know why, are we listening? That's okay. I know you are actually having a legit conversation about the class. But if I put anything on your paper and you don't understand why I changed something and you don't understand why, please ask. Oh, yes, it is, isn't it? Sorry, apparently all Laurens are the same to me. And also, I wrote on the bottom of most of your papers some sort of message. This is not, and I will do this throughout the year, this isn't a message that I didn't like what you wrote or I disagree with you or you're wrong. It's me having a conversation back with you. It's like, oh, but what about this? If I had my way, I would get to go out with each of you probably at least once a month and have a smoothie, like just one-on-one, and say, so tell me about Latinus. How do you feel about Aeneas? And I can't really do that, except I would get a lot of smoothies that way. I would be enormous by the time I got to the month. But I can't really do that. So this is the next best thing to having a conversation with each of you. We are going to write a new paper this week. We're going to write a new essay, just like the one you just gave me.
Wait, I'm sorry, in 1 week?
No. No. That's okay. Tell me if it pops back in, raise your hand and I will stop. You guys, it is with danger that I tell you this, but I'm going to tell you anyway. You guys meet next week and then you have a break the following week. And it's the same. So those of you who have been my students before, you know, the Scholate group does not follow the same schedule as my classes, and you're just kind of used to it. So, but in this case, it plays in your favor because you're going to end up with 3 weeks to do this paper. And my other students are only going to have 2 because of when we take our break.
Didn't we have 3 weeks?
Yeah, it almost always falls in your favor. Yeah. I set it up for my schedule, and then I have to adapt. But be that as it may, don't say, I've got 3 weeks, so I'm not going to do anything this week. Don't do that. Also, maybe you, honest to goodness, want to take a break on your break week, right? I'm going to tell you, those of you who have had me before already know, you're going to get double the reading over your break. Like you're still going to read the same amount you would read in a week, but you're going to read, do you know what I mean? Like you're going to read 2 weeks worth just as if we were meeting. And then we'll talk about both books. So don't save all your writing for the week of break. Don't do it. You'll be happy now, but you'll be sorry later. Don't do it. We are going to, I'm going to treat you like my other students, okay? Just even though you have 3 weeks to do it. This week, our goal is to brainstorm ideas and outline them. Okay? That's not that bad. That's not that much, really. Once you've got the ideas and you look it over, it's not so bad. We are going to write on this topic. Since this week we witnessed Rome under kings, the famous 7 kings of Rome that we'll talk about after we get this done, who ended up being rotters, not all of them, but the last one, and his son was even rottener than he was. And they threw them out. They said, Rome doesn't do kings. We are going to set up a republic. We will vote for officials. We will vote for our leaders. Yes, sir.
When we reference the monarchy, are we talking about the time that the monarchs were backed by the Senate? Or just...
You mean in this paper?
Yeah.
Okay, we are talking about monarchy as a concept. So, excellent question. We are not talking about the Roman monarchy versus the Roman Republic. That means this is a wide open paper because you can use any experience of monarchy or republicanism anywhere in any time in history, okay? Which will make it easier. Also, because you haven't really read anything about the Roman Republic yet, you can't really compare them. And what I would like to do, we're not going to be exhaustive here because my husband also bought me a clock. I know he went on an Amazon spree just for me. So at least I can pace this a little bit. I want to spend time with Livy. So we're not going to fill the board. But hopefully we will get the ball rolling in your minds. And you will be able to go home this week and think about the issue some more, ask yourself questions, and then organize your thoughts, okay? So our first common topic, and remember, these common topics are in the back of your book. If you want to follow along, they are on page 119. You were really close. And 119 are the topics that I'm going to go through. And please remember what these are. Oh, here comes the air, the noise, and then it's going to get freezing in here. But I brought a jacket. The common topics are just questions to ask your own mind. They're just questions to ask yourself to get the juices flowing, to help you think of ideas. And the first one is definition. We know what a definition is, right? What is this thing? What does it mean? Well, this seems like a really good place to start for this one. What is a monarchy? What's the definition? One ruler. Mono means one. It doesn't matter if it's a king or a queen. It doesn't matter if you call them the czar or the dictator. It doesn't matter what you call them. If one person is in charge, it is a monarchy. So, one person in charge. I'm going to write that down because now it makes me think some things in my head. Is there anything good about there just being one person in charge in a country? What do you think, Alex?
You have swift decisions and usually a united will behind it.
Okay, so swift decisions, because it's easy for one person to make up his or her mind. It's hard for a group of people to all decide on something sometimes. You know, just think of your family deciding to go out to a restaurant to eat. You know, I mean, this is all the only thing you need to know that sometimes groups of people don't make decisions very fast. And what was the other thing you said? Swift decisions. Oh, and a united will. So it's a united. I like it. United will. In other words, you're not going to have groups of people arguing because one person's making the decision. What were you going to say, Kirsten?
How much negative?
Okay, well, give me the negative.
Very easily corruptible.
Okay. So because there's one person in charge, one person is easily corrupted. You know, if I'm going to corrupt a group of people, if I'm going to bribe them or something, I'm going to have a lot of money. If I'm going to have to bribe everybody. If I'm going to persuade everyone to become underhanded and nefarious, I'm going to have to really be persuasive to group, get 10 people to all do it. One person, sure. What do you think, Ethan? Put the yes for each one. Oh, thank you. Yeah, not easily corrupted. Oh, thank you. You just saved me. Let's put because many are involved. Many are ruling. Thank you so much. I was focused on my yes, no, and I forgot. Now, I said, or Alex said, that you have a united will. But what if I don't like the king's decisions? I'm not united to his will. What happens to me? If he's not a nice monarch, perhaps.
What I meant by united will is that it will be hard to make the monarch change his decision, as opposed to a Senate where you can just give one guy an idea and all of them start talking about it.
Okay.
With the monarch, he's
Okay.
this is what I want to do, and he's more stubborn.
Steadfast decision making. Can we call it that? Okay. So that's the direction you were going.
You don't have a divided country like we do right now.
Okay. So people. Okay, let's not do that. Okay, I'm going to change that. Factions, fewer factions. Because perhaps it doesn't do you any good to have a faction because the king's just going to do whatever he wants.
Less politics or political outbursts, I guess you could say. Because if you have a king as a sole ruler and you don't have different parties, then it's sort of, yeah.
Okay, so that kind of goes along with that. Zero factions and less political turmoil. Okay. Now we've kind of hit monarchy pretty heavy. The definition of a republic, though, what is it? What is a republic?
It's a rule of a few elected representatives that have the power to make decisions that affect the country.
Okay. Which is what we are. We know this very well. We elect our officials and they make laws for us. If we do not like the laws they make, we get rid of them. We don't, that is sounded really, really shady. We don't get rid of them. We vote for someone else. So if you just told me we get to vote in a republic. People choose their leaders.
People feel more freedom because they can make decisions,
More freedom
more involvement.
and involvement. I like it.
Which means there'd be more countryside country.
Oh, okay.
Pride in
Okay, more national, more patriotic spirit. I don't know if that's true, but we're going to put it down. I don't know. There have been a lot of monarchies with lots of patriotic spirit. So maybe we can flip back over here now and put some of, well, actually we were putting only positives under each one. If this one has fewer factions.
So basically, like when we're writing our paper, you can just go through both sides and say everything in the other column is negated.
Yes, so if this has fewer factions, by extension, this has more factions. Does that make sense? Can we treat it like that? Or do we need to write it down? I have to write it down. Let's try to stick with the positives of each one and realize that the negative mirror image will be true of the other one, more or less, for our purposes. Oh, that's pretty good. Yes, monarchy, yes, no. Okay, Republic. Well, I'm gonna write some of them down, but you can do it the way you like. I like that because it's bothering me not having things written. I'm afraid with my brain, if it weren't written down on the paper, when I go to make my outline, I will forget the mirror image.
What I'm just saying is the R column is the N column for the N. You think about it.
More factions.
The R column is the
Yes.
N column for the.
I might jot some things down, but yeah, we can do it the way we've been doing it. Simeon, what were you gonna say? And involvement. The people are involved in making the rules.
But I don't think it's completely true. Like, there's some things I think when you get it, I don't think it'd be positive or. if they
Well,
get
no,
it's
So
good.
what do you keep going then?
So like in general, speaking, like this could be good for this side, and then maybe like this is good for this side, so this is bad. And sometimes it's something.
No, it doesn't work every time,
Yeah.
but it will work. It will work some of the time. And I'm going to think of writing them down here.
So if you just have the arm and just can get everything, it really doesn't go into the M policy.
Yeah, let's not worry about the format so much. Let's just get ideas down of why each one might be better.
I want to say people's involvement more as, I mean, this, you can add this to people who choose their leaders, but people can influence political laws. Like, people, you can bring to the Senate, like, I think this happened, I think this happened, blah, blah, blah.
So, but wouldn't that still be more involvement? Because you're taking a part in the actual process of making the law? What?
More diversity, so like, especially in our country, like the laws in Texas aren't the same as the laws in California because those are two very different places.
It's true. And so, however, and this is like turning into a government class, but does that matter in a very small place, in a very small country? What if it were the republic or the kingdom of Texas? Like it wouldn't really be important to have a lot of opinions because we happen to be an enormous country. We happen to be just an extremely enormous country with a lot of different terrain areas and people groups and do something. Let's move on to the next common topic. So this is what I was doing. This got our brain rolling just to say, what is a monarchy? What is a republic? Yes. More factions and turmoil. I'm sorry. That was a no. We can put no's down on occasion, but I think it will work if we don't. Yes. Okay. Okay, can we skip? Brilliant, Alex. I'm going to go down to relationship. Relationship is the common topic where we ask ourselves, what might happen next? What happened before, and what might happen next?
It's monarchy going to Senate, or is it monarchy where we vote for the monarch for life?
That's exactly what we're talking about, Kyle. There is a mystery about who may take over next. On a downside of monarchy is you may get a terrible ruler by no choice of your own. I feel like the format will be okay. You know what I mean? You'll see all the ideas and you'll be able to put them in their proper places. Because yeah, a lot of monarchies are hereditary. The Roman emperors are actually going to do something about this. When we get to the empire part of our year, there were very few Roman emperors who had their actual biological child take over after them. And whatever they did wasn't good. If you've seen the movie Gladiator,
Yeah.
okay, there you go. That was one of the cases where Commodus took over after Marcus Aurelius. Bad choice. Most of them adopted someone and said, "You would make a good ruler. I'm gonna make you my heir apparent. I will adopt you, and you will be like my son, and everybody will just know you're next in command." Yeah. Okay, so the what might happen? Elections can be rigged. It is hard to rig a monarchy, although you could maneuver someone to be next in line. I'm thinking, those of you who did the Middle Ages with me last year in junior high, were any of you? Alice was. Do you remember King Harold of England, the Battle of Hastings? And he kind of maneuvered himself into being the next king of England. And then William got angry, and anyway, it was political maneuvering that he was able to do it. But yes, if everybody knows, especially if it's hereditary. Oh, can I just throw something else in? Hang on, Kyle. Less political turmoil, we said, less fighting for control. Can we say that? Because, and here's what I'm thinking with that. If you know who's king next, and it's been announced, there's really no point in my trying to fight to be the next queen, because it's a done deal. Whereas in a republic, who's going to be the next president? I don't know, let's fight about it. We've all experienced an election year.
What if it's not hereditary monarchy? What if it is elected monarchy?
Then
Well, it's still a monarchy by definition.
it is. So that is, Kyle's making a good point. Not all monarchies are hereditary. And so we have to remember that we can't say that all monarchies are bad because the heir to the throne is chosen despite any qualifications or lack of qualifications. We can't say that. So if you say that in your paper, you're going to have to qualify it maybe. I'll probably overlook it if you do, but yeah, Samin. Yes. Okay, simple government. So that could be a downside. Complicated government. A republic is complicated.
Less lies and false promises for government than in a monarchy, because in an election you make false promises to catch the eyes of people to elect you. And in a monarchy, so really no need for false promises. No need for
Okay, because I don't know. My mind is running through history now. I'm like, oh, a lot of kings that lie.
Yeah, but less false promises.
Okay.
And that's why I interpreted
Okay,
less.
I'll grant you that. I will grant that. Fewer false promises because there's no reason to. And we could say on this side that lawmakers, yeah, lawmakers make false promises.
A monarchy for a negative would be the oftentimes does power grab and just tries to get all the money and all the wealth for himself.
You know, we haven't really said that, have we? We haven't said that. How can we say that monarchs with no check on their power can get power hungry and run amok? That's obviously a negative for a monarchy. Leads to tyranny. I'm going to put that here.
Another one for there's mutiny and like people fighting against the king sometimes.
Yeah, that seems like a really specific case. I mean, that could be any government. I mean, we've witnessed some kind of ugliness in our country even in the last few years. I feel like people fighting.
We have a problem with in a monarchy. You have people that want to usurp the throne, that just want to take over.
Would that be any different than people being shady and wanting to get elected? I'm not shooting that idea down. I'm just exploring. Is it different in any way?
Sounds like just a different thing, just for the different type of government. Like every government's gonna have their kind of assertion of like false promises and evil.
Is there any government in this world that's perfect?
No.
Some of you, Lauren, you were with me, and Karsten several years ago when we did the modern world. Do you remember John Locke talking about the fact that why do we have government? Because we're bad. I mean, we need government because we're bad people and we need restraint. So
It's a necessary evil.
it's a necessary evil. Some are better than others, but I think we've been doing comparison the whole time, haven't we? We've been comparing one with the other. Circumstance. I wrote down these notes to myself. What is government like today in most places? Does this color our view? Can you think of good or bad ancient monarchies? In other words, we're naturally disposed to like the republic. I mean, do you think that's true? Who in here would rather live under a king? Like any pro-monarchy? Oh.
Go move to England.
Okay. I didn't think so. So in circumstance was it, well, what's going on outside? Outside, what's going on in other places? In the modern world, we really are favorably disposed towards, does everybody agree with that? Does you guys made a true statement? We like this and we don't like this. So it's harder for us to criticize this and it's easier for us to criticize this, maybe? Although you did pretty good. What did you want to say, Kyle?
So I was going to say how it's really hard to use relationship in like this period of time because over time it's like very different. And we're trying to use a broad term of monarchy,
Yes.
a broad term of republic. It's hard to like, well, back here this time, this was like this kind of thing. Like if we're going over a huge monarchy, it's hard to like this section
No.
says this, and this section says this. So sometimes contradicts themselves.
Okay, so Kyle had his say. And may I just repeat, so Kyle, you're saying that it's difficult to compare because different times, as times change, our views of government change and our patterns of government change, and so government is difficult to compare between time periods. Is that a fair assessment? Ethan, would you like to counter, just briefly?
Well, we get our ideas of what is bad because of the past. So we can't just completely get rid of what has happened in the past.
When we say that?
You can't completely just like rewrite like what did he say about monarchy?
Actually, as Kyle was saying that exact thing, he said
We should
that.
not ignore either side because they changed over time. It tries to back here it's bad, but now this time is good. And so the
I'm going to let Livy speak on this, okay? Instead of me, because I'm nobody, but Livy's great. The study of history is the best medicine for a sick mind. For in history you have a record of the infinite variety of human experience, plainly set out for all to see. And in that record you can find for yourself and your country, both examples and warnings, fine things to take as models, base things rotten through and through to avoid. May I say that I think that looking at monarchy, looking at government through history is informative and instructive for us, but yet we also, I think everybody has a point here, that times change and standards change. But the question is, do people really change all that much? Or are people roughly the same sorts of people in all times? Livy is staking this whole 142, this is only 5, 142 books of history that he's going to write on the fact that people, and he says at the beginning, he says, I'm going back 700 years. 700 years to go back to Romulus and Remus from his day. But I'm betting on the fact that people in all times and places are kind of the same. They want the same things. They need the same things. They have the same turmoils. Everybody wants to be liked. Everyone wants somebody to love them. Everyone wants to feel accepted. There's always people who want to have power at the expense of other people. It's the same thing. Solomon said there's nothing new under the sun. So in that case, I feel like it is instructive to look at different times and different places, and it informs us.
I'm not saying it isn't, but I feel like it's hard to argue this time frame here. Like, and this is like, well, it's bad because of this, then here.
But here it's good. Okay.
So it's like, then how do you put like this is bad, but in this time period it's not good.
Okay.
So like, how do you put that down? Because in the general sense of monarchy, it's bad here, good here.
Is it bad? Okay, I'm opening. I know there's a little conversation going on over here, but this is open to everybody. Is a governmental system bad at one time and good at another because the times change, or because the people in charge at one time are good, and then the people in charge at the other time are bad? Do you see what I mean? Do different times? Oh, and you think it's both?
Because time, like weapons and swords, now it's nuclear weapons and things like that.
Okay.
That's different.
That's just different warfare. It's just different. I would say, I like how we're going in.
Armies aren't just going into battle with swords.
Hang on, Livy says something about this too.
But now we have like billions of people instead of millions or
7.7.
Okay, so we're gonna kind of dig into Livy here after we work on this some more. But let me read this. This is the third king. This is the fourth king. Sorry. Just to review, Romulus was first, and then Numa Pompilius was all about religion, and then the guy next, Tullus Hostilius, was, we're getting to be wimps. Let's go out and fight some more. And then Ancus Marcius took over. Let's go find somebody to fight. And it says, times were difficult and called for a Tullus rather than a Numa. Now that's calling for a different kind of person, not necessarily a different type of government. But it does imply that different times call for different measures. But I,
little money, it's different than the government has a bill, a lot of, and how that changes, like what armor the people wear, the swords they have,
mhm.
they're fighting for more money, should they not? Should they, how many people live there? And like that's like if they have billions of people, then versus like if they have like a million.
Yes.
And so it
Go ahead.
changes based on how many people are there and
Mhm.
money and things. And so that's why I think the circumstance changes. And so someone matters to people, but also matters to the circumstance they're in. And so it's really hard to compare.
This is good. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do.
Something for the board.
Okay, let me, just a second. Let me make a note to myself so I don't forget what I'm going to do. Sizes, Fed papers. Okay, go ahead, Alex.
While pure democracy is better with only a small population, a republic can be used to administer authority to a larger population.
Okay, see, actually, this is exactly what I was going to say. So this would be Karsten and Lauren, and no, you started out in the junior high group, didn't you? So the first year I was here, we did the modern world, we did the Federalist Papers. Do you remember? They were arguing that, oh, this country's too big for a republic. And like, no, it's perfect for a republic. It's yes. So the other people on the other side in the Federalist Papers were saying, no, monarchy works best with a large group of people because you just put down the law. Republics work well in small, where we all know each other. You know, we vote for people that we know. So, okay, somebody else? No, go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So here's what we're going to say. Monarchy works well. Okay, do it, Ethan.
Republic allows for more accountability in council and consolidation.
Okay. More accountability than monarchy.
It's like the ruler is out, they're accountable to the people. The ruler in a republic is being held accountable by the people.
Yes. I'm just jotting down that insight that we came to, that a monarchy often works well when you have lots of people because you need a swift decision. But a republic often works well with smaller groups And you might say, well, but we're huge. But we aren't, are we? We have states.
400 million people.
Yes, but we have states. Each state is its own little republic. It was supposed to be. It's not anymore, but the Civil War unfortunately killed that off. But once upon a time, each state was its own little republic. All right, time is a disappearing on us. So I'm going to move to testimony. Testimony is, does anybody else say anything about this? Is there any place where they talk about whether a monarchy or a republic is good or bad? And you might think, well, I have to do some research for that. Well, I can think of one. I bet we all know one off the top of our heads. When the Israelites came to Samuel and they said, Samuel, you are old and your sons are rotten. That's not a direct quote out of the Bible. Your sons do not walk in your ways. Give us a king to rule over us like all the other nations. Okay, I got to stop my story right there because something just happened. Most popular. Monarchy has been the most popular pervasive form of government throughout history. Almost the entire ancient world was made up of monarchies. Up into Renaissance Europe, monarchies. But okay, just a second. Let me finish my story about Samuel. Don't forget, write it down. If you're going to forget, write it down. They said, give us a king like all the other nations. And do you remember what Samuel told them a king would do?
Take over and try to keep them away.
Fill in.
Sorry. Didn't he say something along the lines of, your flocks will be his flocks, your treasure will be his treasure, your households will be his?
Yeah. He will take your stuff in the form of taxes. He will take your sons and daughters. Your sons will serve in his army, and your daughters will be made servants in his house. He will take and take and take. And right away, by the time we get to Solomon, Solomon has stable cities. Megiddo was one of his, I don't know what, stable cities. Like it's where he kept all his horses. I did a paper on this in college, like the archaeology of Megiddo and all the stalls for all the horses. The guy had, I don't know how many bajillions of horses.
Where was Megiddo?
North of Jerusalem, it's the plain of Armageddon. Har Megiddo means the plain outside of Megiddo. It is horses are going to be the four horses of the apocalypse. But anyway, the testimony of the book of 1 Samuel says kings. Okay, this is actually a no. All right, kings will accrue power. I'm not sure if accrue has two C's. I feel like it does. I like accrue. Well, accrue power at people's expense.
And then that makes me think.
That is the testimony.
I mean, they tax us as well.
They do.
But taxes are absolutely.
We-
It goes to the government, give back to the people.
Presumably, we agree. I don't really agree. I mean, the IRS will come and take me away if I don't pay my taxes. I know that. But technically, it's just we want this government, so we're all going to agree that we all pay our taxes, and it's more like a donation, except it's not, because they will put you in prison if you don't pay it.
So I feel like it's the most popular person that becomes king. It's not necessarily, it's the most popular government, and it's the most popular person in that area that becomes it.
It's usually the strongest person.
Okay, so hold on. You've been waiting for so long. I'm sorry.
Does that say kings will what?
Kings will gain power. You can say accrue power at the people's expense. So, but you're talking, Kyle, about the original rise of a monarchy in an area. Like it's just we're just a bunch of tribes. Yeah, like each table is a tribe. You're just living, and just like, we want to get together because, the wolves keep eating my children and I need protection. And so let's have a king, and then that's going to be the most popular person or the most powerful person. But once it gets started, once the monarchy gets started, I feel like if it's hereditary, then it doesn't matter. If it's not, you could argue that we elect the most popular people in the republic. Just saying. Okay.
So it's the most popular government because it's people's way of like gaining control of things. And so people want power, and so they gain power, and then they become king of that thing.
Okay.
It's most popular because people try to take over. Even people try to take over with government, with arms and things. They try to take.
Perhaps. Although those of you, I realize you're all here, but those of you who remember our republic last year and the degenerating monarchy degenerates into other, into tyranny, which becomes a oligarchy, which becomes a democracy, which was like the scum at the bottom of the barrel, according to Plato. So maybe that would be flipping what you said on its head. Like monarchy is the best and it's degenerating, rather than it's the most convenient or the most powerful person who just wants to seize control. All right, we're almost done with this, and then we're going to talk about Livy.
As a no for the republic, I couldn't say that because the population so controls the government, an uneducated population can elect bad leaders or be easily manipulated by leaders.
Okay. I feel like these people could be easily manipulated too, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Like with the republic,
It does matter.
With the republic, that's more of an effect.
Okay. Manipulation. Common. And manipulation is common and has dire consequences. Okay. Hopefully, I feel like many of you, your mind is brimming forth with ideas. Here, I've just been standing in the way for the whole time. Another testimony you can use is Livy. They had kings at the beginning, and the kings took and took and took until they started just, well, frankly, raping people's wives. That was his son, not the king, and that was the last straw. Now, this next week, you're going to read about the republic that they founded. And as you read, here's what I'd really like you to do. So this is Wednesday. Say you're reading Thursday and Friday, whatever allotment, you read as you divide it up over. Look at the new republic they founded. Look at the new republic and see if you can add any, this got better because they're a republic, or this got worse because they were a republic. They were better off under the monarchy. This might make the wheels turn as you read. I would like you, to the best of your ability, to sit down at least 2 more times and just think about it. Go over the common topics, but it doesn't have to spring from that. Anything that comes into your mind. But do you see what happens? Once we start thinking about it, we just kind of we go down the rabbit holes, right? And we start wondering, well, what about this? Well, what about different times and places? And this was a good monarchy, but this was a bad monarchy. And what if it's hereditary? And what if it's not? And generate ideas. Then I would like you to take the outline that's in the back of your book. It's on page, drumroll, 121. I'd like you to choose a side. And yes, I am going to make you choose a side. And you know what you're going to look for. 3 main proofs why monarchy is just it, or republicanism is the way to go. And then I'd like 3 supports for each of those. And then I'd like you to choose 2 for the other side and knock them down. Yeah.
Okay, my original plan had been to say, oh, I mean, this is better, We're talking about section of,
The essay.
paper. Don't worry, I didn't in my, essay, but.
Okay.
I was thinking, oh, monarchy is good and it's a little bad. Oh, republic is good and it's a little bad, but I like monarchy the best because it has all of this lining up for it as well. So kind of compare.
No, choose a side. Choose a side. Let's go. We can mix it up a little bit later in the year, but choose a definite side with the format that we've laid down last week. But you do at your moment to knock down the other side, which, if you want to. Yes.
So reputation, I struggled with how to start.
Okay.
Because with the Aeneas should Dino,
Mm-hmm.
should lead Dino or whatever. Like it was like hard to start that like.
You mean actually to write? Okay. Do you want to add, and then I'll let you in, and Simeon.
Literally, like, find a way to make them seem, find a way to make the other side seem so unattractive and so, like.
That's not what he's talking
Okay. Okay. Stop. Just for.
I'm trying to find an intro to it. Because once you get the point,
Okay.
I'll get into it.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, then, Ethan.
I like to start with like statements, like a statement about the people who you're here.
It's just out of the blue. It's like it seems like
Okay. So just a second, everybody. I'm it's filed away. Just a second. I want to hear what Simeon has to say, and then I'm going to respond to that. 2 is good enough, but if you want to do 3, go for it. And this is because so Kyle's question is more about the actual writing of the paper, not about outlining the paper. So which would be next week. But I'm going to go ahead and address it, and maybe that problem too. Know how to really start the sentence that says. I'm moving into another portion of my paper. We don't want to say I am moving into another portion of my paper on the paper. The very, very simplest way is to say, some people might say that. That's the very simplest way. And it flips it. Some people might say, so I'm arguing that monarchy is the best. Some people might say that the people in a republic are not as easily corrupted because many are ruling. But they may have forgotten, they may have overlooked that bribery is rampant in republics, and a person with deep pockets can reach a lot of people fast, okay? Now, Ethan was taking it a step further. He is not just simply saying, some people might say, but he's going to make a statement, if I'm reading you correctly, about the type of people that might feel the other way. Okay, I'm going to say poison your mind against them before you even start reading it, which doesn't seem very fair, but that's the goal. Your goal is to persuade that this is better than that. Yes. Can we do something? Can we revisit this idea next week? Okay. I'm going to erase this. But here's all I want you to do this week. I want you to think of as much information, anything that occurs to you on republics and monarchies. Any monarchy you've read about or know about is testimony or republic. And I would like you to take your ideas and organize them. Bring me an outline next week. If you want me to look over it and help you, I will. If you feel like I just don't have enough ideas and I need help, I will help you. We will all help you. All right? Is okay? But you're not writing a paper this week. Okay, I'm erasing. And we are moving on to Livy. Well, that's why I did it first, because yesterday I did it last and it was very rushed. Would somebody, just any of you at this table, you know what I want. Would you I want this to happen, okay? I want this to be on top of that one. Okay, so we need to,
That one.
here.
I hate these clips. These are the weirdest.
Well, see, Ethan, you're gonna have to move that over to clip this.
Yes.
I feel like I should maybe just, okay, awesome. My crew isn't with me.
It was Alex.
Okay, everybody get your reading questions out. Actually, first, can you turn to page 103 with me in your reading guide? I made a little chart for you on page 103 that I thought would be helpful, a couple of little charts. And the first one is the offices of the Roman Republic. So Rome, today, for the rest of our time, we're going to talk about the sad story of the kings of Rome. But when they formed a republic, they had offices. And Livy just says them because he assumes you know. And you don't have to know all of them, honestly. When you read where it's like, okay, he's some government official. But if you really want to know, they're listed here. Yes, sir.
I love how the censor supervises public behavior.
He does. The censor booted people out of the Senate because they were immoral or just slackers. And they would every once in a while just go through and like, you're not a senator anymore. You're out.
Kind of like how, like, we were writing a paper about American history, and like we could just reference like the Department of Defense, and everybody would know.
Exactly.
Of course.
Everyone knew what Livy was talking about. So I noticed that my copy of the book anyway does not have a glossary where you can look these up. Maybe yours does. So I just thought if you wanted to know, the consuls are really the most important ones. We'll talk about those next week. Yes.
Except the fact that I don't know if I'm right or not, but I'm not going to say that this is, he literally says, I confess with some misgiving, and even more I'm confident in the value of my work, I should hesitate to say so. He's literally saying, don't take my words with a grain of salt. I'm just a historian. I don't know everything.
Yes.
That is very charming.
Yes, he is. I'm going to read some more. Thank you. We're going to visit his, I think one of the questions I asked you has to do with his attitude towards the stories. I also put at the bottom, money. I just thought it was fun, so I just put the money there. Roman names. You are going to get irritated and confused by the fact that people just have the same name over and over again. It's like, what is up with these people? And it's sort of like if we just called everybody by their last name. And so this Ferguson in this generation did this, and then suddenly a Ferguson shows up in another generation. Like, how long did this person live? No, it's a different one. It's their grandson. They had a first name. Romans had a first name, but there were only, I don't know, like less than 10 first names, maybe. That's why there's so many Publiuses. There's lots of people named Publius. It's just there weren't very many first names. People didn't really go. Marcus is another popular one. You don't hear a lot of Romans just named Marcus because it's a first name, and I guess if you're little, your little friends call you that, but I'm not even sure. So Livy, what is his full name? Just a second. Titus Livius. Livy is his last name. Livy isn't his first name. So they didn't really go by their first name. So they had a first name, then they had a family name, just like we do. But then they often had a cognomen. We would call it a nickname. But you get to give it to your descendants. So Cicero, probably some of you have heard of Cicero, a great Roman writer and orator. Cicero means chickpea or garbanzo bean. And apparently some ancestor of Cicero's, the original Cicero, because his name's Marcus Tullius Cicero. Sometimes he's called Tully. Anyway, apparently he had like a chickpea growth on his nose. I mean, it looked like a chickpea. And they gave him the nickname Cicero. And so all his family gets to be Cicero now. Gets to be chickpea. The guy, Scipio, Publius Scipio, from the Scipio family, conquered Hannibal. He went to Africa and he conquered Carthage. And now he gets to be Publius Scipio Africanus. And all his descendants get to be Africanus, Scipio Africanus. So it gets a little difficult because you run into a name and then you run, is this the same guy? Is this a different guy? I don't know. You just kind of have to run with it. But often Livy will tell you, this is the son of the guy who did this. This is the grandson of that Tullius who did that. And it helps. But it, as far as I know, no one is totally sure how Roman names work.
I would hate to be a descendant in a long line of very successful Roman generals. My name would be miles long.
Yes, they did, because they had many cognomens sometimes. You know, just lots of nicknames. Art of the week is a lovely bronze wolf.
I feel like that is in scale.
Well, let me tell you, before you comment on the scale, I think you mean the scale as in relationship to the children. Do you mean that?
That and its body seems happy.
It is a very strange looking wolf. If I saw a wolf that looked like this, I would call, the animal control, because I think there's just something weird going on. This is a bronze statue, probably from about the year 500 BC. It is Etruscan. It is made by the native people, the people who lived in Etruria, north of Rome. Now, obviously, if you read this week's reading, which I hope you did, or if you know anything about Roman history at all, you know that famously Romulus and Remus were thrown out by their grandpas to die by the Tiber River, and a wolf came and took care of them and fed them until the ever popular shepherd came and picked them up. They do. Oh no. The little kid doesn't, you mean that, no, you don't tell babies anything. You just do it.
Like when you're little,
Oh,
right? They don't tell you why they threw the kids out.
oh no. Well, see, I think that's a little twisted, because which is worse, to tell them that your great uncle usurped the kingdom from your grandpa? I mean, that seems less than saying, and they threw their babies out. That's the thing you don't want to tell the children. Anyway, so this wolf statue was just a wolf statue until the Renaissance. Those babies are Renaissance editions. I only learned this about 3 or 4 years ago. My whole life I looked at this and like, awesome, Romulus and Remus with the wolf. And then I read in an art book, no. Lies, and more lies. Somebody just thought, wouldn't it look cute if we put the babies under the wolf? And they just did it. I feel like you're allowed to do that to artwork. No. So let's talk about this city. This city that's going to rule the world. Not the whole literal world. And they never could quite get those Parthians in the east under control. But basically, the known world was Roman. They started out. Oh, actually, before I dive into that, I need to read some more of what Livy tells us at the beginning. He says, yesterday I did a terrible job of. Okay. First question. Why does Livy say he will find studying antiquity pleasant and rewarding? To deflect from the troubles of the modern world. He says, basically, we've quoted it, I shall find antiquity a rewarding study, if only because while I am absorbed in it, I shall be able to turn my eyes from the troubles which have so long tormented the modern world. First of all, I love the fact that he refers to, 10 AD, 20 AD as the modern world. It was modern for them. That's something we need to remember. Nobody living through a time says, oh, this is just ancient times and things are good. No. If the world continues for another 2,000 years, we're going to be ancient times someday. We think we're so hot. Someday we're going to be ancient times. Or not. Or a blip. It's true. But Ethan mentioned this. He says, I'm going to tell you the stories because I'm going back 700 years. Just think for a moment. What was happening in the world 700 years ago? Yes. Oh no. That would be 3,000 years ago.
1500, so kind of.
Yeah, it'd be about 1300, the year 1300. So the Black Plague has not broken out yet in Europe. England and France are at war, and they've been at war forever. We haven't hit Joan of Arc yet. I'm just saying this to show you, this is a long time ago. Romulus and Remus are to Livy as Joan of Arc or the people before of Henry V as they are to us. And he said, you know what? These are the stories that people tell. Like Ethan said, I'm going to tell you the stories. He says, such traditions I propose neither to affirm nor refute. I'm going to tell you what I've heard. The earliest historian that wrote this down would have been about 400 years after it happened. So Livy was working with historians 300 years before him to look up the stories. But these are the stories. Book one is the stories every Roman child would know. Just like you all know who George Washington is. And you all can picture crossing the Delaware to sneak up on the Hessians. Abraham Lincoln, the Pilgrims, to put it a little farther back. Let's go 400 years back. The Pilgrims. We all have an image of that. Even little kids have an image of the first Thanksgiving, and you read picture books about it. All the Roman children knew this, Romulus and Remus and Numa and the Horatii versus the Curiatii and the great battle. All these things they knew. This was their history, whether it was actual fact or not. It was for them. And Livy says, I invite the reader's attention to consider the kind of lives our ancestors lived, of who were the men and what the means, both in politics and war, by which Rome's power was first acquired and subsequently expanded. I would then have him trace the process of our moral decline. I would like to read this. I'm going to read that line again, but I want you to listen, but I want to think you're reading a modern newspaper or a magazine. Don't think of it as something written 2,000 years ago. He says, I want to think about long ago, to trace the process of our moral decline, to watch first the sinking of the foundations of morality as the old teaching was allowed to lapse, then the rapidly increasing disintegration, then the final collapse of the whole edifice, and the dark dawning of our modern day, when we can neither endure our vices nor face the remedies needed to cure them. This was 2,000 years ago. We used to be awesome. We used to be a virtuous people, and we lost it. We did not teach our children correctly. We let them go their own way, and we have made a mess of things. I'm being Livy now, but I could be a modern American.
Who was the king? Who was the Roman king or whatever?
When Livy is Augustus.
Augustus. Okay. So this is around the same time that Virgil.
Yes, it is. It is. And I already answered the second question. I will answer it again. The study of history is the best medicine for a sick mind because you have the infinite variety of human experience and you can find examples and warnings. He's very upfront. This is why I'm writing this huge history. This is a little tiny bit of it. Huge history. Because you know what? We went off the rails. We used to be better people than this. And maybe if we look back and think about the better people we used to be, we will turn this train around before it goes over the cliff. Now, here's an ugly, that said, you read stories about throwing babies out. What sort of people? Let's look at the third question. What sort of people populated early Rome? Just answer the first half of that question. Yeah, Alex.
At first I wanted to say honorable, but then here they are just stealing wives. So instead I said old practical.
Oh, that is a very nice way to put it. Did anybody put it a different way that wasn't so nice? Fugitives. Fugitives doesn't make them sound so nice. I'm looking for it exactly. Okay. Yeah, that's the wives. Yes, but this. So Romulus. Oh, and gee, I forgot. Romulus kills his brother while they're building the city. Let's not forget that. Then he threw open in the ground, now enclosed between the two copses as you go up the Capitoline Hill, a place of asylum for fugitives. Hither fled for refuge all the ragtag and bobtail from the neighboring province, from the neighboring people. Some free, some slaves, and all of them wanting nothing but a fresh start. Okay, what kind of people are usually on the run? Just saying. Usually criminals are bad people. Although in our Greek history last year, we had a lot of cases where somebody killed somebody accidentally. You remember? Lots of people. Oh, I accidentally killed someone and now I'm on the run and so. Like how many people are accidentally killing other people in ancient Greece? Apparently it's happening a lot. But they settled, yes, they settled, and here, everybody with me, because I don't think I want to take this down yet. So they keep talking. Livy talks about, and they gathered on this hill or this hill or this hill. Rome is famously a city of 7 hills: the Quirinal, the Viminal, the Esquiline, the Caelian, the Aventine, the Palatine, and the Capitoline. And I don't know, this afternoon I have 2 students that have been to Rome. Have any of you been to Rome? I need to talk to somebody who's been to Rome and say, how big are these hills? Are they just like little hills? Are they? The Capitoline is pretty rugged, I think. But they would gather on these hills. Why hills? Because hills are defendable. When people are trying to attack you and they're running uphill, that's always hard for them. You know, if you're on the top of the hill, you're in a better place. And so they kept expanding, and we'll talk about it here in a minute, as they attacked neighbors. And you probably noticed they said, and they just took them all into Rome. They just absorbed them into Rome. And they kept enclosing more of these hills in their walls. By the time we get to the end of book 1, this is the wall. They've enclosed all the 7 hills of Rome. So now I know, help me go back in my mind, guys. The fugitives. So the fugitives are just welcomed, and we just assume, and maybe I'm being hard on the fugitives, but I feel like they're on the run for maybe not a good reason. And then they all look around and they say, well, we got a lot of men, don't have any women. Which, ladies, just a shout out to us. Notice the ladies aren't the criminal fugitives. The men are the criminal fugitives. Just had to throw that out there. No. Let's just invite our neighbors to a big party and just, at the signal, everybody snatch a woman.
How does that make? And then-
Just grab one. It's fine. It's fine.
And then Romulus goes by the captured women. He's like, you should be glad right now.
Yes. Which, do you know what? Reminds me a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of Aeneas standing over Lausus and saying, just be glad you were killed by me. Lucky you. Just be glad you were kidnapped by us. It could be worse. Famously, the Sabines, whose women were stolen, the neighboring tribe of the Sabines, finally decided to attack, and the women ran out on the field and said, wait, don't fight. You guys, you used to be our fathers and our brothers, and some of you were our husbands. Sorry about that. But we have new husbands now. We love them. We love them. They're awesome. So we are losers no matter what happens here. Either our family members die or our husbands die, but we don't want any of you to die. Just don't fight. We're like, okay, we won't fight. How about the leader of the Sabines can be co-king with Romulus? That'll work. I'm bringing this up. This is the beginning of the city that's going to rule the world. This is the city that Livy's looking back and he's saying, we used to be so virtuous. What happened? Now, I'm going to throw this out there and I'm going to say, I don't think Livy's idea of virtuous is the same as our idea of virtuous. Maybe. And I'm going to challenge you guys to do something for me. When we read about other time periods, we can judge them very harshly. And we should judge. But we should also remember these people aren't Christians. These people know nothing about the revelation of the one true God. Merry-go-round of death. I read that to the junior high kids. I brought my Herodotus today. They got treated to that. And it's very hard. Reading history is a dangerous thing because we don't want to fall in love with them and not judge them for their faults and just look past them. But we also don't want to judge them so harshly that we fail to get any good out of reading it. Because the church fathers, and we're going to spend second semester reading a lot of the early fathers of the church. They said there is virtue among pagans. God prepared their hearts too through some of these stories. And we can learn truth even from pagans. Sometimes they speak truth, but they don't know it. And the cardinal virtues of what wisdom, justice, fortitude, and temperance. These are good things that the church took because they're good things. So anyway, join me on the tightrope of not saying these were horribly wicked people and we can see no good in them, but not saying, oh, I just love Rome. I love those buildings and the togas and everything. They're all awesome. They're not. Do you think that we ever look back at our own history and idealize it sometimes? Like the early Americans were all so virtuous and wonderful, and many of them were. But the Mayflower hadn't landed very long. I think it was within 20 years, they executed the first person for murder.
20 years.
His name was Billington,
It took
Francis
someone,
Billington.
or it took
But there weren't very many of them there, and it might have been less than 20 years. It was within 20 years. It wasn't within 10. I mean, it was pretty good, but there weren't very many of them living there. everything was not.
Where you learn about the small things on the sidelines.
You do. This man's son, also named Francis Billington, almost blew up the Mayflower because he was playing with gunpowder. I know. People they had jerk kids too, and bad parents. I'm sorry, Ethan, go ahead.
One of the things I get American history, we love what happened in the past. Oh, we're just such virtuous people. But are we not going to talk about the amount of Native American people?
Well, and that is true, and unfortunately we don't have, because we have like 10 minutes left.
Yes.
But yes, so in other words, we all tend to whitewash our history. Agreed? And Livy may be doing that as well. But also, Livy's looking for a different standard of virtue than we are. Okay, so let's breeze through these. What did people think happened to Romulus at the end of his life? Alex?
One version was he went up to heaven in a cloud, and all the senators who were around him saw him and started praising him. Oh my gosh, he's a deity. And the other story was that he was stabbed by the senators in the fall, and the body is gone.
Yeah, we don't know.
What?
Here, guys. Yes, that's it. And then cloud. Yeah. So some of them claimed the gods took him. He's a god now. We're going to worship Romulus. He's a new deity. And then some people are like, no, I think the senators didn't like him and they just killed him and hid his body.
Now, the one where Romulus was a deity was more widely believed. I think so.
Yes, after Livy tells us, a guy claims he saw that Romulus visited him. An apparition of Romulus said, okay, I'm a god. You should build a temple to me. And my first question, and Livy insinuates it, I'm not going to try to find it. Did somebody pay this guy to do it? It kind of makes you wonder. It'd be really convenient for him to suddenly see a vision.
Maybe one of those senators who was under suspicion.
So Romulus was gone. The Sabine leader that was his co-leader had died some time ago, and they need a new leader. And we're back to our monarchy problem. Who's going to be in charge? We did not designate someone to be in charge. Who's it going to be? And the Sabines said, you know what? You stole our women. We really ought to have a crack at the kingship. You should pick a Sabine. They did, Numa Pompilius. And he's the guy. It says Rome had originally been founded by force of arms. The new king now prepared to give the community a second beginning, this time on the solid basis of law and religious observance. He's going to set up the religion. And well, but you see, but we are judging by our standard. You see, we're doing it already. For him, he was doing a very good thing. He was trying to make them pious. Now, Livy seems like maybe he doesn't totally believe Numa's story that he used to go out in the woods and talk with the goddess Egeria, and she gave him religious rules.
What's the Greek version?
I don't know. I think Egeria is a Latin. You know what I mean? I think it's one of the native gods of Italy. I don't think there is an equivalent. Like just some woodland goddess. Anyway. So he claimed this is where he got his rules. I don't know. But I did ask you this question, and I'm just for time constraint, I'm just going to read it, okay? Livy says that people say that Numa got to be so wise because he visited the Greek philosopher and mathematician Pythagoras. Best known to you as the sum of the squares of two legs is equal to the square of the hypotenuse in a right triangle. Pythagorean theorem. He was a philosopher. It says, it has been said he owed his learning to Pythagoras of Samos, but this is a mere shot in the dark and is obviously untrue, as it was not till 100 years later, in the reign of Servius Tullius, that Pythagoras is known to have settled in southern Italy. But even if the dates fitted, how could Pythagoras' fame have reached the Sabines all the way from the south? What mutually intelligible language could he have used to awaken amongst them a desire for learning? Under whose protection could a man have traveled alone through so many different people, in differing in language and manner of life? No. My belief is, on the contrary, that Numa's noble qualities were all his own. And I asked you this to point out, Livy is not just blindly listening to the stories, is he? Yeah, they say Pythagoras taught him, but I don't even think they lived at the same time. And even if they did, how did he hear about him? What, is Numa speaking Greek? I don't think so. Livy is not blindly accepting everything he hears, is he? Numa diverted them by religion, right? What resulted from increased population? Did anybody find this? Yeah.
Wasn't it not enough land?
Yes, but I don't think I marked it. What? Yes, yes. So reorganization, say it again, crime. Crime. The crime rates rise when we let all the people into the city. Again, it's not an ideal world. Livy isn't even saying that it is. They finally go to war with their Alba. And you got to remember, Alba is the town that Ascanius built, for crying out loud. They're like brothers. And they said, okay, here's the deal. We're all killing each other and we're brothers. You pick 3 champions, we'll pick 3 champions, and just let them fight it out. You guys have 3 brothers in one family, the Curiatii, the Curiatius brothers. We have the Horatius, the Horatii, plural, brothers. Let's fight it out. And then follows, oh shoot, I don't have time. I wanted to read the whole thing. This amazing, read it again if you didn't read it carefully. This amazing battle where the Alban guy, the Albans strike down one of the Romans, 2 of the Romans. There's 1 Horatius brother left, and there's 3 Curiatii. But this guy's smart. And this is Roman virtue. For Livy, this is the height of virtue. He's smart and he's brave. And he says, those guys are all injured. They're going to come after me, but they're not very strong, and I bet they can't come at the same speed. So he starts moving away, and they're kind of gimping after him, one after another, turns around and takes out the first one, moves away a little, turns around and takes out the second one, and it's 1-1. The guy's no match. He's just seen his 2 brothers killed. So has the Horatius brother. And he takes him out. And then this is the shocking, if you remember the shocking thing, and this is Roman virtue. He goes back into the city and everyone's like, Horatius, you're so awesome. But he's got the cloak taken from one of the Curiatii. The Horatius brother's sister is in love with that Curiatii. And she made that cloak for him with her own hands. And her brother comes by and she sees it. It's probably got blood on it. And she has a meltdown. And he turns around and he just kills her. He just kills her. And he says, take your girl's love and give it to your lover in hell. What is Rome to such as you, or your brothers, living or dead? So perish all women who mourn for an enemy. They take him to court, because you can't, even in Rome, you can't just kill your sister. It's not a thing. Even there. But and they're going to try him for treason, interestingly. And their dad comes and says, let him go. If he hadn't done it, I'd have done it myself. What? Okay, because Roman virtue number 1, you are pro-Rome through and through. You do what needs to be done. You do what needs to be done. You are pious, right? You do your duty. You don't cry over the enemy. Now, I'm not saying this because I think that's a virtue. I'm being Rome right now. I'm telling you this is a virtue. So when Livy says, look at these people and how virtuous they were, this is the sort of thing he's looking at. The things that make us cringe, honestly. Okay, well, fast forward to Tarquins. I'm skipping a lot of these kings, but some of them are. Yeah, there was a guy from Tarquinian, and north of Rome. It's on a map. Oh, it's not. Oh, Tarquinii. Here we go. Here's my little map, just up from Rome. And he said, you know what? I'm a native Latin, but there's fortune to be made in Rome. I'm moving. He ends up being king, and ticks off his 2 sons by letting someone else be king after him. The guy whose head caught on fire. I told you we were going to meet another guy's head catching on fire. A young boy whose, again, head was flaming. And his wife said, this guy's something. Keep him around. Well, those 2 brothers, no, they said they were going to put it out, but she said, no, don't do it. But he didn't suffer. It wasn't real fire. It was divine. But the sons are not happy. My dad was king. What about me? This jerk kid gets to be king. The jerk king, Servius Julius, the kid whose head was on fire, grew up and he said, well, I know, you probably should have been king. Marry my daughters. You could marry my daughters. And then maybe you'll be king after me. You'll be in the royal family. Awesome. Except 2 of them are rotters. There are 2 brothers married to 2 sisters. This brother and this sister are both rotten to the core. They both bump off their spouse and join up. And she says, you ought to be king. I know he's my dad. You ought to be king. I ought to be queen. Let's get rid of him. By the way, Livy does not find this virtuous. This is not an example of Roman virtue. I think I should say that. They go to the Senate house, and Tarquin the Proud, Tarquinius Superbus. Superbus means proud, lofty, haughty in Latin. Throws the guy down the stairs, and his wife runs him over with her chariot. It's her dad. He takes over, and everything we said about bad monarchy on the board just kicks in. He takes, he fights. He's always off fighting until the fateful day when his son, Sextus Tarquinius, is sitting around a fire with a couple of friends, Collatinus and Brutus. And they're chatting about how great their wives are. Our wife. Like, Collatinus says, no, my wife will beat him. Like, well, you know what? It's only a couple miles into town. I mean, they're attacking a town just like a mile and a half away, 2 miles away. Like Davenport is attacking Eldridge or something, Let's just go in and just see what they're doing. No, I'm not advocating that. And they do. And a couple of their wives are just kind of partying, because their husbands are gone. But Lucretia, Collatinus' wife, is just busy. She's doing the housework. She's spinning the wool thread. She's awesome. You're right, Collatinus, she's awesome. Sextus Tarquinius thought she was a little too awesome. Snuck back the next day and raped her. She calls her dad. She calls her husband Collatinus. She calls his cousin Brutus and says, this is what he did. Are you going to do something about it? I'm going to do something about it. And she kills herself right in front of them. By the way, that is a Roman virtue. I would rather die than be shamed. I would rather die than be dishonored. Lucretia is a hero. Like, if they had saints, she would be Saint Lucretia for the Romans. She's awesome. We kind of take a different view of suicide and think that if someone abuses you, you're not really at fault if you weren't willing. But that's us. That's not Romans. Brutus had for a long time just pretended to be kind of a joker, kind of a nobody, pretended to be not as smart as he was. But he stood up, he came to himself and said, we're done with these kings. Drove them out of Rome. Can you imagine just, okay, I know we're almost out of time. 753 is the traditional founding of Rome. 509 is the driving out of the kings. Okay, let's do our little thing. 244 years of history of kings. Roughly the same time as America has been a country since the Constitution. What if we just, like, things went bad, we say, oh, you know what? Let's just burn up the Constitution and have a new government. That would be, that's what they did. We're burning the whole king thing. We're gonna elect consuls. We're gonna elect 2 every year. We're gonna have all these different officers. The Senate is gonna make the laws now and not a king. They refurbished the whole government because this jerk attacked a fellow soldier's wife. Yes.
Where did you get the idea for a republic from Greece?
This is a very good idea, or a good question, and I don't know. Athens was a democracy. It was a pure democracy. Everybody voted.
And also, even Livy is saying, who speaks Greek? Like when it came to Numa and Badger,
Yes.
like we aren't.
Yeah, we don't speak Greek.
And not only that, but they make such a drastic representative change.
Let me end with this, though, because I do need to let you go. Livy also tells us the story that one of the kings, this was Tarquin the Proud, sent to the oracle at Delphi to get information. And that's where, if you remember that because they wanted to know who was going to be king next. And the oracle said, whoever kisses his mother first. And Brutus knew what it meant. The earth is our mother. And the other 2 guys were hurrying to get home. Oh, I got to go greet my mother. And Brutus pretended to fall down and planted his mouth on the ground. Like, I will kiss my mother first. Brutus isn't going to be king, but he's going to be one of the first 2 consuls of the New Republic of Rome. Read book 2.
Fate is just looking down. The first person to kiss their mother is going to be the king. He trips and falls, and he kisses the ground. Well, good enough.